Hey, welcome back. In this video, we're going to do a couple of examples on finding rate of change and initial value. Typically, my videos for this concept are titled linear relationships because that's what they are. All right, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing you want to kind of refresh your memory is slope-intercept form. So I would pause the video after I'm done writing and copy this down. This tends to be more challenging, the most challenging for kids. So M, which is in front of the X, is your rate of change. When you get to upper grades, it's also known as slope, but for 7th grade, it's rate of change. B is your initial value, starting point, and then your X and Y are basically your independent value, and then Y is your dependent value. Okay, those are not the only names. X is also known as your input value, then which would make Y your output value. These are also ordered pairs that are on a graph. So slope-intercept form is introduced in 7th, and it just carries on through the math. So because you have something after the X that's not a 0, that means it is non-proportional. If it was a 0 right here, then they would be a proportional, which we typically don't write 0, but it does help kids. So as I said, M, which is your rate of change right in front of the X. So that means -7 is our rate of change. This is actually your change in Y over your change in X. Okay, and you'll see that in my examples today. The -9 is our initial value or your starting point. All right, so let's get started. So right here it says find the rate of change and initial value for Rio's bike ride. So what I do is I first find my change in Y. This would be +3 because 3 plus 3 is 6. And how does 6 become 9? +3. 9 become 12 is +3. So every single time my change in Y was 3. So I'm only going to write it once. Now I'm going to go to the left side to do my change in X. So 15, how does 15 become 30? +15. How does 30 become 45? +15. 45 becomes 60 +15. So my change in X every time was 15. I'm going to simplify it to 1/5. So remember, it's Y equals MX plus B. So this is your X, your independent values, and these are your Y. So first thing I want to do is 1/5 times 15. And then I'm going to be 1/5 times 30. And then 1/5 times 45. I'm not going to do the 60. So 1/5 of 15 does 1/5 15 over 5 does equal 3. And then, so that's nice, equals 3, which is here. And then 1/5 of 15 does equal 6, which is here. And then 1/5 of 45 equals 9, which is here. So what that tells me is I don't need to add or subtract anything to get my Y values. So this is actually a proportional relationship. So it'd be Y equals 1/5 X. If it didn't equal my Y value, I would have to add or subtract something. Some kids like to put +0 just to kind of keep it organized. Remember that this crosses at 0. All right, we'll keep going. All right, so for this one, you won't typically get your ordered pairs marked for you. But in this example, it does give it to you. You always want to use clean points. So I'm going to create a table. This isn't the only way to do it, but I will tell you from experience, kids are much more successful with this. So 0, 10, that's my first order pair, and then 5, 25. So we're going to first find our change in Y. 10, how does it become 25 plus 15? How does 0 become 5 plus 5? So that means it's 15 over 5. The only way kids mess this up, or anyone messes it up, we just forget. We get taught x comes before y when it's graphing, and then transferring it to rate of change is where we kind of make some mistakes. We want to simplify 15 over 5 to get 3. And let's always go back to y equals mx plus b. The mx plus b is technically our rule right here. So we'll plug in our first term, or our first x value is 0. And then the second term, or the second x value, is 5. So 3 times 0 doesn't equal 10. So how far is 0 to 10? Plus 10. 3 times 5 is 15, but that doesn't equal 25. So how far is 15 to 25? 10. So our rule is y equals 3x plus 10. Now let's look at the 10. Where do you see a positive 10? Right here, and that's 0, 10. And then I'm going to go back to the graph. 10 to 25, that's 15. And then my change in x was from 0 to 5 is 5. And if you notice, my change in y on the table was 15, and my change in x was 5, which is the exact same thing you're getting on the graph. So you got a couple of options. I will tell you, I prefer the graph, but most kids are more successful on the table. All right, let's keep going. So it says Denise and Madeline rented a canoe. They paid $70 for 2 hours. So we want to go with setting up a table on Saturday, and $130 for 4. So that means 4, and it's $130. I want to start off with finding your change in y. How does 70 become 130 plus 60? How does 2 become 4 plus 2? So our change in y is 60, and our change in x is 2. We simplify that to 30. And remember, that's the beginning of your y equals mx plus b. So we'll plug in 30 and 30. We're going to go plug in our x values, 2 and 4. And 2 groups of 30 is equal to 60, which is not 70, so we have to add 10. 4 groups of 30 is 120. That doesn't equal 130, so we'll add 10. And then from here, our rule is y equals 30x. The only mistakes I see kids make is y equals 30 plus x. They know the x goes there, but they just somehow forget to drop it. All right, that was our last example. I hope it helped. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe.